Okay, welcome back to the Investigative Journal on this July 17th, 2015 day on our calendar. I'm your host, Greg Anthony. You're listening to FirstAmendmentRadio.com, and you can catch my show every evening from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. That's on First Amendment Radio 5 days a week, 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. That's Pacific time, so don't miss it, because as I always say, we look for the truth, but what is the truth? I think the truth is what one person really goes to sleep and believes. So there might be a million truths out there, but we're looking for things based on facts, which sometimes don't make any, don't really count when people create their belief systems and create what they believe is the truth. So I'm not going to presuppose or tell you to listen to what I say and believe it. I just want you to listen and take in some of the information. And many of you are probably wondering why I'm spending so much time on the circle Earth theory, and probably wondering how it ties into a lot of my other shows which deal with Vatican intrigue and connections to the New World Order, or as we call it, the Old World Order, connections to looking back to ancient history, to looking into symbols and signs and things like that. Well, it is my contention that all of this, including the shape of our Earth, has been a part of a conspiracy by the elite to mislead us on vital information. And so that's what we're doing here. This is part 7, I believe. Yes, I think it's part 7. Of the In Search of the Great Ice Wall. Now, what I told you earlier was that there's what we're looking at here is simply the shape of this Earth. I can't tell you how many people, when you start talking about this, start getting into things like what lies above, what lies below, what's in space, what about the aliens. And what I'm saying is, get all that out of your mind for a minute. And just think about what we can prove as far as what the information that we know, what we can prove about the shape of this Earth. What I'm saying, is it a globe, or is it a plane? Which means, is the North Pole at the top, South Pole at the bottom of the globe, or is the North Pole in the center of this sphere that is enclosed by a great ice wall? Thus, In Search of the Great Ice Wall. Now, years ago, before this corrupt organization called NASA began to brainwash people with all these computer-generated images that make us believe in things that really don't exist, similar to Hollywood. And isn't it interesting that when NASA began, they were working hand-in-hand with Walt Disney? All right, so what can we show you? What we tried to show you is some of the things that we do know about using a sextant, horizons, using trigonometry to prove that if the time zones are correct, I mean the way, we have a number of time zones, and they're based on the sun, right? And they should calculate to what NASA gives us as far as the distance. And they don't. The horizons should, as far as the circumference of the Earth and the curvature, their math should add up, but it doesn't. And so what do we have? We have facts that prove that something is not right. And it makes more sense to look at the Earth from a standpoint that it is a plane. Now, I don't care what's above right now. I don't care anything about what's beneath the Earth. I'm just saying, let's look at the shape and let's look at what things we can prove before we start supposing what we can't. Now, I played yesterday on this program, or was it the day before? I read to you a number of explorations that were done by mariners prior to NASA's creation in the 17th and 18th centuries, 19th centuries, which talk of this great ice wall. and one was Captain Cook, another I can't remember his name right now. There were two others. And they basically went to this great ice wall and traversed in a circle all the way around some 60,000 miles, never finding an entrance. So what that means is, in some of their observations, their diaries never have been really given play in the history books for a reason, because it's revisionist history, it's cover-up history. So when we look back at this, what is that? Did the Earth automatically change in a couple hundred years? Or did we make the mistake as a modern man to rely on experts when we shouldn't? And I think that last statement I made is very important. Now, today I'm going to pick up, I've been playing this information to you regarding the intro to the flat Earth, or I call it the circle Earth, history, some research, some conspiracy theories, and where it all emanated from. And we're at a point now where we're looking at this from a point of view of, and I keep losing this thing, and I'm going to have to go back and key it up right. But we're at it from a point of view where we're looking at the Earth through the eyes of science fiction, the way we've been taught, through the eyes of NASA and their computer-generated images without categoric proof. So we're relying on them to tell us what we live on. And I think that they're making a big mistake. And a lot of their signs and symbols, as we've talked about in shows past, have brought that to the forefront, and it makes good sense. Now, I said earlier, the only way, outside of doing probable cause mathematics and doing horizon tests and things we can do on the Earth, there's another way to do it. You can go up above the Earth, maybe a couple 100,000, maybe 100,000 feet or so, go even higher, and look down. Or you can start researching what's on the sides. If you go west, I say you run into an ice wall. If you go east, you'll run into one. So if we could do that with the billions of dollars that NASA has, we'd know by now. But they don't want us to know. They're using that money to propagate a lie. Now I'm going to start out with this video. And it starts with, remember Star Trek? And there was a black girl on Star Trek. Now, after her Star Trek days, she became the main recruiter for astronauts. That was interesting. What was her background? Movies. Let's tune in and see. Well, before, and so I'm going to have to preface, because we're going to get into a subject here. He gets into the modern researchers of the flat Earth, and that gets into a whole different ballgame. And I'm going to say right now that one of the things I want to get to in a couple of shows is how to detect COINTEL people, and to tell you that it makes no difference if they are not. And we spend too much time worrying because, listen, when they do these COINTEL operations, much of their information is true. Now, we have to listen to it, but they lead you down some kind of rabbit hole to really get you into a position to say, well, these people have to be out of their minds. And that's really, they're discrediting it from within. So I say, really, let's learn from them. And like I said, you can do it in other areas of truth movements, which I'll show you in the weeks to come. So I don't just think to turn these people off. In fact, I say, contact me, all you COINTEL people. I'd love to speak with you. Back in a few minutes with some more comments, but let me get to this point here, because when he gets past this point about Star Trek, he's going to get into these flat earthers, and he's not making any bones about who's who, who's what. He's just giving you information. Now, we don't know who these people are, and so basically what I'm trying to do is take it in, see who comes out front in this movement in the beginning when this thing went viral in the last year or two, which is quite interesting in itself. And we'll get to the bottom of it. But anyway, back to Circle Earth history, research, and of course some conspiracy.
Buffs should love the fact that Lieutenant Uhura of Star Trek fame, Nichelle Nichols, then went on to be a chief recruiter for NASA of the alleged astronauts in the late 1970s into the late 1980s. Her recruits included the first African-American astronaut, Sally Ride, the first female astronaut, and Judith Resnick, who was alleged to have perished during the launch of the Challenger on January 28, 1986. We accept CGI, or computer-generated imaging, of movies like the recent Clooney-Bullock collaboration of the space film Gravity as being created in Hollywood, yet how hard would it be to fake NASA footage as well from the space station with yesterday and today's CGI capabilities? Fortunately, digital photo analysis advanced, so going back to official NASA photos, like this one of the alleged round ball Earth, shows many duplications that could not have possibly occurred were it a real photograph taken from space. And does anyone seem to care that for over 2 decades now we are always seeing the exact same photograph of Earth?
No, and let me answer that question. No, because basically people want to believe in this fantasy. And when you look at the image they gave us, I say just go to ISS, which is their supposed 24-hour feed from the International Space Station, and you will see how big of a fraud it really is when you get right down to it. You got to remember that people want to believe in all this fictitious stuff. It's what they've done to our minds when they've barraged us with Hollywood, aliens, the whole thing. And we have lost our sense of what is real and what is not, and they know that. It's manipulation at the highest form. And what about Freemasons in space? Interesting.
Secret societies have been part of the occult or hidden hand of preserving the great lie since the beginning. How cool or powerful it would be for secret societies' recruiting purposes if you could tell your new first 3-degree blue members that Buzz Aldrin, the second man we are sold had stepped on the moon, had planted a Scottish Rite Freemason flag on there. From George Washington and his laying of the cornerstones of the White House to many U.S. presidents like Harry S. Truman, many have been Freemasons. So to fake an Apollo moon landing, one Kenneth or Kenny S. Kleinecht managed the Apollo space missions from the beginning until retiring to Lockheed Corp in 1981. He is a 33-degree Mason, and for his great work at NASA and the Apollo fake moon missions, he then became the sovereign Grand Commander and titular head of all Scottish Rite Masons throughout the world. Make no mistake, the powers that run NASA are co-joined, run, and controlled by the military and secret societies of the New World Order, and always have been in modern times. Using Hollywood, whose name comes from the holly tree used by the ancient Druids for black magic, as well as known celebrities to promote their sun-worshipping Horus snake ways, as they show off their serpent tongues to mock those without eyes to see or ears to hear the hidden truth about what is really going on in our world today. Up until December of 2014, no books had been written for some 70 years as to flat plane Earth theory. It was during the mid-1850s an independent, free-thinking gentleman and intellectual named Samuel Rowbotham traveled tirelessly for 30 years around Europe to teach flat Earth theory to anyone that would listen. He wrote the book Zetetic Astronomy, Earth Not a Globe, as well as began the International Flat Earth Research Society. Zetetic comes from the Greek language meaning to proceed by inquiry and or investigation. Following his death, Lady Elizabeth Blount, wife of explorer Sir Walter de Soddington Blount, established the Universal Zetetic Society. The society published a magazine, the Earth Not a Globe Review, and remained active well into the 20th century. William Carpenter continued on with Rowbotham's work as well. Mr. Carpenter published The Theoretical Astronomy Examined and Exposed, proving the Earth Not a Globe in 8 parts in 1864 under the name Common Sense. He later emigrated to Baltimore, where he published 100 proofs the Earth is not a globe in 1885. In 1901, David Wardlaw Scott published Terra Firma, the Earth Not a Planet, provided from Scripture, Reason, and Fact. In the United States, as Einstein's theory of relativity was beginning to be promoted as scientific genius by the Royal Society of London, a very brave and intelligent man named Gerard Hickson took to the task to debunk the modern astronomers' heliocentric theories from Copernicus to Einstein. In his excellent
Well, we just cut this guy off for a second, so I got to go back again and pick this up. And we're talking about this book, Kings this Dethroned, which you have to get. For some reason, this thing keeps cutting off, but I'll get back to it. Close as I can. There we go.
And rotated around the sun and was not Earth-centric. This is a must-read for anyone to truly understand how science and astronomy has got it so wrong for so long. He was followed by Wilbur Voliva, who preached the flat Earth science in Zion, Illinois for over a decade, until the first space launches in the late 1950s and early 60s appeared to prove flat Earth theorists wrong. Yet he continued to believe in and preach the flat Earth cosmology. In 1956, Samuel Shenton started the Flat Earth Society, and he too spent many years traveling around Europe, convincingly teaching flat Earth theory despite tremendous ridicule and scorn from newspapers, yet rarely losing an argument to round-ball heliocentric arguments and alleged proofs. In the 1970s, across the pond, Charles and Marjorie Johnson took up the cause, and determined to follow on Mr. Shenton's work, they published the Flat Earth News. Suspiciously, their home was burned down by an arsonist, and all their research and documentation, as well as their historical records, were lost in the fire. Sadly, Marjorie died shortly thereafter, and Charles died homeless and poor. Yet now, some 40 years later, a 30-something Eric Dubay has revived the conversation as to facts and myths of heliocentrism versus geocentrism. In his must-read book, Flat Earth Conspiracy, published in December, he emphatically proves viable evidence of a flat Earth, as well as showing evidence of 500 years of a globalist conspiracy.
Going to or from. But if the Earth was actually spinning at the rate that they say it was, flight times would be totally different.
It makes sense, but yet I've been taught from an early age not to trust myself because they've got it on lock, so I just assume that the physics all kind of works out. But I know there are people who go to school for physics. You know, they study it for years and years, and it's just odd that none of them ever catch on to it. That I guess that guys like Newton created this entire fake science around a fake model, and yet all the math checks out. That's a little hard for me to rectify.
Well, they're counting on that. That's why they've got all these huge formulas and calculations for gravity and whatnot that are based on nothing. So, like, they've got a weight for the ball Earth, all based on their gravity calculations.
Science is designed exactly how economics and taxes are designed. The increasing complexity makes it so the average individual just has to trust the experts. You can follow it to a certain point, but then most people say, well, that's a little bit beyond me, but there's experts out there. They know what they're doing. I'm sure that this fractional reserve banking system, this debt-based system of rule, is just fine. I'm sure the taxes I'm paying are totally fair.
Let me give you one piece of advice right now. Do not believe anything that comes out of the mouth of your government, out of the mouth of the Vatican, and out of the mouth of NASA. That's a good start.
They've got the code. They got the big book. They wouldn't overcharge me. They wouldn't, pull any scams on me. And you could apply the same thing to, of course, science. But it's just, to what degree? This is a really far out degree.
That's right, yeah. I mean, our eyes and experience tell us the Earth is flat and motionless, and everything in the sky revolves around us. But when we cease to believe our own eyes and experience, we have to prostrate ourselves at the feet of these very pseudoscientists who are blinding us, treat them as experts, astronomical priests who have special knowledge only they can access, like the Hubble telescope. So by brainwashing us of something so gigantic and fundamental, it actually makes every other kind of lesser indoctrination a piece of cake. Earth being the flat, fixed center of the universe around which everything in the heavens revolves gives a special importance and significance not only to Earth, but to us humans, the most intelligent among the intelligent designers' designs. By turning Earth into a spinning ball thrown around the sun and shot through infinite space from a godless Big Bang, they turn humanity into a random, meaningless, purposeless accident of a blind, dumb universe. So it's like trauma-based mind control, beating the divinity out of us with their mental manipulations. People are always asking, why do they do this? I mean, this is I mean, other than the obvious profit margin motive, NASA being the biggest black budget black hole in existence, sucking in over $30 billion taxpayer money for the fake moon landings alone. Nowadays, hundreds of billions of dollars, and not just NASA, but RASA and all the other fake space organizations around the world.
Okay, the guy you're listening to right now, as it was said in this discussion, was the first one to come up with a book just recently. Why was it revived now? Why now do we hear all of this regarding the flat Earth or the circle Earth? Now, my point is, during my research of this, I've been looking at it from a point of view also of who are these guys. And I find there's a number of them out there, and with forums, with the YouTubes, things like they used to do, just compare it to the 9/11 Truth Movement. And I don't know who's who. They're all blaming each other. For example, this man here, Eric Dubai, recently has come out and said that most of the other guys that are out there are all COINTEL people. A guy named Matt Boylan's coming out saying Eric Dubai is. And so we have this kind of back and forth going on. Now, I don't know if one of them is, they all are, none of them. But the one thing I do know is that when this occurred in the 9/11 Truth Movement, it isn't uncommon that even COINTEL people will argue amongst each other to really totally confuse you. So my advice to you is to start really looking at what they say and start drawing conclusions based on the fact if they use your own common sense. And if you do, think of it this way. What's the importance anyway? We've shown that facts will prove, and this is facts proven by people before really COINTEL was even in operation and NASA was in the operation. What was going on this Earth? We can use our common sense and see the horizon. We can measure the sun's distance. So we know that's factually true. So what these people are doing is trying to lead you into some kind of camp. Now, they may be doing it from a purely scientific research point of view, getting to the truth, or they could be doing it for ulterior motives. That's for you to figure out. But I say this. Just like when you listen to Alex Jones and John Stadtmiller argue with one another, realize they work on the same team, and you can get a lot of good information from them. So I say, more power to them. I really don't care who they are. The same thing happens in the Vatican, anti-Vatican stuff. I'm sure I've talked to many COINTEL people that act like they're fighting the Vatican, and I say, fine, I can learn from them. But in the end, they know who they work for, and there's a hidden agenda if they are on that side. Now, I can't ever prove it. They don't want you to. They want you to keep being confused and more confused, and I won't do that anymore. But I'm just saying, when you start looking at this, you're going to run into a lot of different people. And it's up to you to figure it out. And I say, let's just start out with what the shape of this Earth is. Let's forget about what's above, and let's look at what some of the old explorers said about what's around this circle, the ice wall. And that's why I'm in search of that great ice wall. If we had the money that NASA had and used it properly, we'd already know. But there is something going on here, and we need to get to the bottom of it. And how many people really do want to do that? Not many. They're content on listening to the experts, content on living a fantasy life. Isn't it cool to think you're traveling 250,000 miles an hour, or whatever we are, and wouldn't it be neat to meet an alien tomorrow? We'll be back. 3 minutes on the Investigative Journal.
The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights Media channel. You will notice that there are few commercials on this radio network. There's a good reason for that. Corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on Internet or our several affiliates. If you benefit by the educational law programs, we ask you to give. If you are admonished or nurtured by the Bible and ministry programs, we ask you to give. If some voice a cause that you are passionate about, we ask you to give. If you believe in any of these, we ask you to support them as you would a missionary on a continual basis, as if giving a tithe for missionary radio. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs at our listen and schedule pages on the internet. Then, when you subscribe, we will send you the last quarterly MP3 CD of that program immediately, and continue to do so with each new quarter. We will also give you unlimited archive access to all of our programs. We're asking you to give much less than a tithe, so that you may also send support directly to a particular program host, cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening.
Okay, as you can tell, we're back on the Investigative Journal. I take a whole different attitude and mindset into dealing with COINTEL operations. In this particular flat Earth or circle Earth movement, you don't see much of it until NASA was around in the 50s, perhaps. I don't know what Isaac Newton and those guys were doing back then, but you see it right now forefront. And so I take a whole different approach to it. Let me tell you what I take. I say there's a reason for them. You're never going to get rid of it. And in fact, they're there to lead you to the truth. If you have the perseverance, if you have the mindset to look for it. And without them, you're not going to find it. It's just the way the world is today. So, for example, when you're looking at the 9/11 Truth Movement, you're going to have to deal with them. I did many times. And through them, you find out the truth, or at least getting closer to what I call factual truth. Now, there's a lot of times I probably put my head on the pillow at night with wrong ideas, wrong beliefs, because of the information that I had. But I'm not opposed to changing that. And that's really what this show's all about. I'm not in here to change your mind. I'm not in here to tell you how to think. I'm in here to find out for myself what's going on. And so I can leave this earth a little bit more peaceful and content. That my choice of a profession, when I got out of college, back before many of you were even born, and surprisingly, it's no different. When I was young, I thought I knew everything, and the same thing is today with the youth of the world. They think they know everything just like I did when I was a kid. Little did I know I didn't know anything. And you'll learn the hard way, too. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make is dealing in the issues that I deal with for much of the years I've researched, trying to tell people about the factual things going on at the Vatican and how they control this country. I've dealt with a lot of COINTEL people. I've dealt with a lot of people that tell the truth. But what's the difference if me? Just think about it. I'm not Tom Frass, Eric Phelps, all these people. Who knows? Me. You can put me in the bunch too. Leo Zagami. So what if one or all, they're there for a purpose, and you will learn the truth. So I'm not pinning the tail on the donkey on anyone. I'm just saying use your own judgment when it comes to this, and understand, even if people are, and they will fight amongst themselves, even if they say they're government in 9/11, they're anti Globe Earth, they're anti-Vatican. But just realize that you're going to have to figure it out for yourself, and there's a purpose for it. Now, let's get back to Circle Earth, some history, research, and of course, a little bit of conspiracy.
Giving CGI images for hundreds of billions of dollars. So this modern atheist, Big Bang, heliocentric, globe Earth, chance evolution paradigm spiritually controls humanity by removing God or any sort of intelligent design, and replaces purposeful divine creation with haphazard, random, cosmic coincidence. And so by removing Earth from the motionless center of the universe, these Masons have moved us physically and metaphysically from a place of supreme importance to one of complete nihilistic indifference. If the Earth is the center of the universe, then the ideas of God, creation, and a purpose for human existence are resplendent. But if the Earth is just one of billions of planets revolving around billions of stars and billions of galaxies, then the ideas of God, creation, and a specific purpose for Earth and human existence become highly implausible. So by surreptitiously indoctrinating us into their scientific materialist sun worship, not only do we lose faith in anything beyond the material, we gain absolute faith in materiality, superficiality, status, selfishness, hedonism, and consumerism. If there's no God and everyone's just an accident, then all that really matters is me, me, me. So they've turned Madonna, the mother of God, into the material girl living in a material world. Their rich, powerful corporations with their slick sun cult logos sell us idols to worship, slowly taking over the world while we tacitly believe their science, vote for their politicians, buy their products, listen to their music, watch their movies, all sacrificing our souls at the altar of materialism.
Touche, my man.
It's a big deception. I'd say.
So he was the Most High at 12 noon. And so Horus walks across his 12 steps. So we say the same thing today. Same thing. We have 12 Horuses. But instead of H-O-R-U-S, we make it H-O-U-R-S. Becomes hours, changing the U and the R. Now it becomes 12 hours. No, it's 12 Horuses. And Horus represents light. The sun represents light. Light in Latin is Lucius. Lucius, when personified as a god, becomes Luke. And this is why I have Luke Skywalker. And he walks across the sky and meets his evil brother, Darth Vader, or in the Egyptian religion, Set. He was the god of darkness. The prince of darkness was Set. Why? Because it got dark at sunset. So the whole idea is that it's the whole world that we live in is based on Egypt, Mesopotamia, ancient Greece, ancient Rome. All of the stuff that we live in this world is based on ancient religions and cults and secret societies and Masonic orders, and the people of this world have no idea in the world what's going on. I've spent 48 years studying occultism, mysticism, words, terms, legal terms, government, international banking, theology, religions. I'm telling you, there's a world of knowledge you have never been told. That's been right there for you, but it just never occurred to anyone to sit down for 48 years and study this stuff in the dark. I mean, I have a high respect for all religions, for all belief systems, but I'm telling you, it needs to be based on wisdom and knowledge. Let me give you an example in the Old Testament.
The following segment comes principally from the work of Dinesh at musicoftheancientsblogspot.com. Quote, "The Bible is a complete Masonic work compiled of Jewish, Egyptian, and Eastern mysticism. The words of Jesus come from the ancient oracle scrolls of Egypt. All the characters are archetypes of the human psyche and nothing more. Horus, the virgin-born redeemer of the Egyptians, came into the world to destroy the enemies of the great god Ra. Therefore Horus changed himself into the form of the winged sun disk and took with him the female goddess Nekabet and Uatchit in the form of two serpents. Here we see the 7 sacred planets around 2 pyramids, one inverted. Pyramid meets fire in the middle. The triangles represent the as is above, so is below teaching of the ancients. The serpent, or Ouroboros, represents the shedding of skin, or rebirth, in the infinite cycle or circle of creation. After their successful war upon the enemies of Ra, Horus commanded Thoth, the god of secret wisdom, that the winged sun disk with the erect serpents should be brought into every sanctuary of all the gods of the lands of the south and the north. It should be noted that some of the earliest Christians, called the Ophites, actually worshipped the serpent. In the New Testament, Jesus says, quote, 'Be wise as serpents,' end quote. And of course, Moses raised up the brazen serpent. The reason being is that the serpent draws on a very interesting analogy with its habitudes of life. Its rebirth through the shedding of skin, the spiral coiled shape which is often depicted as 7 coils culminating to its head, which depicts the creative life force. To this day, we still see the powers in control of our world use these images to have effect on our psyche or soul. The dark force that creates the illusion of its power is ultimately a reflection of our collective psyche. End quote. All of the creation stories of the world speaks of this group who hides the sacred teachings from the world. It is the story of Osiris being cut up into the 14 pieces scattered across the Nile. Isis finds all the pieces except the penis, which she replaces with a gold member. This is the true meaning of the cry of Isis, or crisis, and why most religions, especially Roman Catholic Christianity, are principally sun worshippers. The creation story, or myth of the solar deities, seeks to keep the human soul decapitated forever. This is Lucifer's, the fallen light angel's, purpose on earth. Quote, when a newborn male baby is circumcised, it causes the vulnerable, sensitive human infant's soul to depart from the body, allowing another less sensitive, tough energy to step in, one that can handle the incredible assault to its nervous system and physical and spiritual integrity. Circumcision is a satanic-based ritual. It is a form of trauma-based mind control and central to the hidden occult practices to keep all in servitude. This is why...
Ouch! I'm glad they did it when I didn't even feel it, but man, I wasn't even thinking on those terms. Let's go back to this.
The pyramid on the back of the dollar bill has an unfinished or circumcised cap with an eye for an eye to all that can see behind the deception and the programming. The penis and vagina are the most central themes laid out in the occult architecture representing creation. The central power structures of the world erected literally and metaphysically, obelisks at the center of their power bases. The female principle is called the yoni and shown in sacred geometry as the Vesica Pisces. This quote is from John Yarker of the Arcane Schools. Quote, the Vesica Pisces, two interlinked circles, is also known as a yoni. The name yoni refers to the middle portion of the interlocking circles, is derived from the Sanskrit meaning divine passage. That the yoni is the feminine, the yoni should be viewed such that the divine passage becomes a correlation to sex or male-female union. It is this correlation and its relation to rebirth and regeneration that remains a basic truth at the very core of occult's structural foundations, end quote. We also see these images in early Christian religion and is where the Pisces fish, the astrological sign, also comes from.
Okay, we went over a lot of this yesterday. I wanted to replay parts of that because sometimes you need to hear it a couple times, at least I do. But I did want to do this right now. I can always play the last 15 or 20 minutes of this another time since we've dwelled on it enough. I did want to go to one little 12-minute rant here. And the reason I want to play this is to show you what COINTEL can do. And what they will do is also put out things like when Obama came out and spoke recently and said anybody crazy enough to believe the earth is flat ought to be put in a mental institution. But anyway, I'm just paraphrasing. He didn't quite word it, but it sounded like that's what he was meaning to say. But someone else sent me another little short discussion here and asked me to decide what it was. And basically, I'm trying to find it right now so that I could play it for you. It's kind of interesting, very interesting. And let's see if I can find it. I always love doing this on the fly. Okay, it's coming up here. Greg, let me hear your thoughts on this one. Is this a flat earth psyop? Jesuit Freemasons exposing themselves, showing how crazy people are who believe in the flat earth? And this person said the only reason that she doesn't believe in it, in the globe, is because of what the Bible says. Okay, so let's listen to what to me is obvious psyops, but listen what they'll try to do to people who even use factual research to come up with basically glaring errors of NASA science. And they put out a thing that says, warning, you're on nearing the edge of the earth. Now, that's the first sign, because no one ever said that you're going to fall off. And then they show a picture of people with, tin can hats.
I've gotten rid of like most of the flakes, and although we had some the other day telling me the Earth was flat, but I've got most of the sort of like space cadets. I've got rid of an awful lot of them now, and I'm down to kind of a core of people who are kind of well balanced, and they get it, and that means an awful lot to me.
That's funny. I had someone sending me some information about the Earth being flat too, in multiple messages on YouTube and Facebook. I think it was a documentary. Maybe perhaps it's the same person.
No, I think there's a bit of a thing going on. I think I have a conspiracy theory about that at the moment. It's suddenly, there's this whole idea of the flat Earth has flooded the alternative scene at the moment. I'm literally...
And again, who knows where this is coming from? Now, again, I can't categorically say it's a psyops, but it sure has that taste in your mouth, giving you certain things. And now if it is, so what? We're going to understand that, yes, people do think you're crazy. I was talking to a few people the other day, and I started to talk a little bit too much, and I know when I left, they said something like, man, he's off his rocker. So let's just listen in and keep an open mind.
Convinced it's some kind of university research program or intelligence services, shall we say, a sabotage weapon. So when they actually come to pointing us out, and they can say things like, we're pointing out something that's really serious, like, I don't know, anything, something in politics or anything, they can turn around and says, but look, these are all the same nuts who are they believe the Earth is flat. These people who are actually pushing this flat Earth idea, they're so mad and they're so dangerous. We must rout them out of this movement like a cancer, because they're going to bring a whole lot of us down with them.
I hope you don't mind me using your comment. I just want to, because it's really good. I agree, it's a psyops, and flat earthers and their kin are the worst trolls I've come across on G+. Why is that? Are they not supposed to be open-minded? Well, yes, you would think so if they're believing in something like that. And that's why they're questioning the Earth around this. If so, why all the hate when you don't agree with them? Absolutely agree with that. And they are the worst trolls I've ever come across. Look at the apps. This is why I feel like I'm being monitored. Look at 7, all in a really short space of time. 7, thumbs down, 2, 4, 1, 5. And this was a really polite video. A really polite video. They all were. This is the only one that hasn't got too many dislikes. It was actually...
I wish I wouldn't play the music so loud, but I can't do anything about that, so just listen up.
Really kind of showing how we work and what we do. This one here is unbelievable. All I've done is tried to explain how an airplane flies around the Earth and over the Earth, and look what's happened. 7 thumbs down. They are the worst trolls I've ever come across. They are trolling me. This is harassment.
There's no way in hell someone just woke up one day and said, I know what, I'm going to say the Earth's flat. I'm going to make all these videos and put up 10 hours worth of videos. And I have them related to the 2 biggest ones, this guy named Sargent, this other clown named Dubé. They're connected. That's why you all of a sudden saw this thing pop up. Why put up this info? It's to pollute, poison the truth movement.
I'm sorry, I have to resort to threaten you people that you're going to burn in hell for not believing that I'm Christ, that I'm God in the flesh. I'm sorry. Now I understand when you go back and you read in the Bible where all these threats are made to the unbeliever, to the wicked, for not believing in Christ, for not believing in God. Now I understand. I tried being nice to you, I tried convincing you with logic, but in the end, I tested your hearts and you're all wicked. Not all of you, but for the most part, yeah.
I see this kind of garbage you got to listen to, and I just want to play it so you know what you're up against in this kind of movement.
والآية اللي قرأتها قبل لحظة أنه جنة عرضها السماوات والأرض، فهذه دللت على أنه
this guy is telling us in Arabic the earth is flat. Whoever claims it is wrong.
Roger
it's crazy.
in Maine. Roger, you're on the air.
Hello, Jason.
Yes, sir.
Roger in Maine. It's so great to talk to you. And if Alex is listening, I just wanted to let you know I listen to you on a daily basis. I drive a bus to and from Boston, Mass. every day. Listen to your iPod, and just wanted to share with folks, don't give up on family members that aren't on board with the New World Order and everything that you and Alex talk about. My son woke me up to you folks in the New World Order probably a couple of years ago.
Excellent.
He runs a site called theatlanticconspiracy.com. I don't know if I can put a plug in for him, but
sure.
I've had a lot of family that were high-level Masons. I don't hide that fact. Do you know what they told my dad? You know what they told me? Don't ever be a Mason when you get asked. Don't ever be part of it. Is that understood? I've had family that have been 33rd degree Masons. What do you think they discovered? I've got family on both sides involved in the founding of Texas. Lone Star State, you think I know about Masons? You know how many family aprons I've got in storage, or my dad does? These fucking shills! These fucking New World Order shills! Where is the Alex Jones hotline number? I need to call him right. Joe Rogan has publicly admitted on his show that he is a Mason. He has Duncan Trussell on, who talks about how wonderful it is to be a Mason and spreading propaganda and disinformation about Masons being about geometry.
But in 1906, Wilbur Glenn Villava became head of a slightly bizarre religious sect that pretty much ran the city of Zion, Illinois. Villava believed that the earth was actually flat, and he enforced flat earth teachings in schools in Zion. He also enforced that belief on really anyone who entered the city. Villava believed not only that the earth was flat, but that the sun was only a few thousand miles away from Earth, not 93 million. He also believed that the sun was only 32 miles across, not 860,000. He sounds crazy.
You have to wonder, why are they monitoring my stuff if they don't agree with me? You would think they would just move on and think, okay, and just move on. I'm a solitary person. I don't have a huge subscribers. I'm not a threat to them in any way. So why are they constantly monitoring me?
So I was like, well, and I found out you were an anarchist. I'm like, oh, well, that's interesting. He's actually a morally sound and a peaceful person, which is very rare. And that's a markup in my book any day. So maybe I should talk to this guy and see what's going on. So that's where we're at.
Okay? All right, now our final guest. I can't believe this, but he's the head of the Flat Earth Society. He says the Earth is definitely flat. Here is my guest, Charles Johnson. Let's hear it for Charles. Now, Charles, you can't truly be serious and believe that this Earth is flat.
The Earth is flat is one of the few things that you can ever know for sure in life. It is the only sure thing. You know, they talk about death and taxes being sure, but the Earth being flat is much more sure than that.
Okay, so what they're doing here, and I hope you understand, the only thing you really have left is your common sense. And to be led by misinformation, to be led by this kind of stuff, to me, this video, I'd love to know who made it. And really where it came from, but probably never will. But I take it in stride and say, listen, I can use my common sense and do my own measurements, and that'll be good enough for me.
But Charles, I mean, you didn't give the rest of our name. It's the Flat Earth Research Society. We have research. We have
But Charles, we have seen pictures of the round globe.
Are you serious, Wally? I mean, in other words, your proof is. I saw it on TV.
No, I've seen it from an airplane. It's round.
Oh, you got it from an airplane.
But Charles, are you saying everybody else is wrong and you people are the only ones who are right?
Absolutely.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. I only have a few seconds to go. But this is the kind of stuff you're going to run across. Just a smattering of information, misinformation. But the real interesting thing is I think if you go back past the formation of NASA, go back years, start looking there, when these misinformation people weren't even around, whoever they may be. Back tomorrow, or wait, back Monday on the Investigative Journal.
I know you all want answers, and believe me, so do I, and I'll do my best to get them.
Have you seen the Left Behind movies? Have you read the Left Behind fictional book series? Not everyone believes Left Behind is true prophecy. Some may even regard as conspiratorial the mainstream re-release of the Left Behind movie with actor Nicolas Cage portraying the main character as an attempt to further reinforce in the minds of all this perception of false prophecy in order to condition the masses for the play about to begin. Because they see the world stage shaping to fulfill what they have been led to believe is sound biblical interpretation, a left behind rapture scenario, this false view of prophecy is reinforced in the mind, not only of its adherents, but also includes those who have been merely exposed to the specific media. Is it possible that false prophecy can be fulfilled? The rapture theories have always been in dispute. Pre-trib, mid-trib, and post-trib disputes have risen up in exclusively evangelical circles of recent history, so that when true believers don't suddenly disappear, this element will easily go by the wayside when all see a new Jewish temple begin to be built. Will this be part of the great delusion that will come upon the whole earth? It seems that this great prophetic delusion has already overcome practically the entire American evangelical and Christian world. Get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. To learn more, visit crosstheborder.org. That's CROSS, crosstheborder.org.